Welcome everyone to the monthly meeting of the Knoxville, Knox County Planning Commission. I am Tim Hill, Chair of the Planning Commission, and I'll be conducting today's meeting. Assisting me today is the Executive Director of Knoxville, Knox County Planning, Amy Brooks, and the Planning Commission Attorney, Tasha Blakeney. I would like to call this meeting to order. I will now ask Ms. Karen to call the roll.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Commissioner Uten?
Here.
Commissioner Boyer?
Here.
Commissioner Huber?
Here.
Commissioner Shelto?
Here.
Commissioner Perez?
Here.
Commissioner Browning has informed us he is unable to attend. Commissioner Higgins?
Here.
Commissioner Levinson?
Here.
Commissioner Biggs?
Here.
Commissioner Barker?
Here.
Commissioner Adams? Here. Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Midas?
Here.
Commissioner Hill?
Here.
I believe that's 12.
Thank you, Ms. Karen.
Yes, sir, 12.
All right. Participating today are planning commissioners as well as planning staff and various representatives of city and county agencies. The planning commissioners are citizens from the city and county who have been appointed by either the city mayor or county mayor. We receive no salary and volunteer our time as a service to the community. Now a word about how the discussion will take place. After each item is called, I'll read the staff's recommendation. On certain items, I'll call on staff to comment. At this time, the applicant may address the commission or defer his or her opening remarks and allow any opposition to speak first. The applicant and those in support of the applicant will be given a total of 5 minutes to speak. I will then ask for other comments from the floor. The opposition will also be given a total of 5 minutes to speak. If either side wishes to have an opportunity for rebuttal, you'll need to reserve time from your allotted 5 minutes. Applicants and citizens who registered to participate and are attending the meeting in person will be asked to come to the podium and share their name and address for the record where their item is heard. Those who have registered to speak online at knoxplanning.org/act do not need to sign at the podium. If you would like to speak on an agenda item and have not registered to do so in advance, please raise your hand when the item is read into the record. I will then indicate when it is time for you to speak, and you can approach the podium at that time. You'll be asked to sign in at the podium as well as state your name and address for the record. If the Planning Commission decision on that item is appealed and we need to notify you, we cannot do so without your name and address. The Planning Commission may grant additional time for presentation of information. Speakers should limit their remarks to the facts of the case and should avoid repeating comments that have been previously presented to the Planning Commission. Because of the number of items we have before us, groups in favor or opposed to an item have been asked to appoint a spokesperson to represent them. If you have any items that you would like to make part of the record, please submit those documents to knoxplanning.org/share. Please identify the file number and meeting date in your submittal. I hope you all have reviewed the agenda package from Planning's website. In addition to the agenda, there's information on the website related to how today's meeting will be conducted, as well as correspondence on individual cases. Many of the items we vote on require further action by the City Council or County Commission. For matters that are forwarded to City Council for final action, the applicant or their representative should be present at the meeting at which the request will be considered. For matters forwarded to County Commission for final action, particularly rezoning requests, the applicant or the representative must, and I repeat must, be present at the meeting at which the request will be considered, or the case will, at a minimum, be postponed. Applicants will be notified of the meeting date. If you have any questions regarding the meeting date or process, please contact planning staff. Today's meeting will be conducted in order of the agenda. Please stand as you are able as Vice Chair Uten leads us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our Father, bless this community. help to ensure the decisions made this afternoon are fair, legal, and in the best interest of the total community. As always, keep us mindful of the needs of others, especially those who are in sorrow, need, sickness, or any other adversity. Amen.
Next on the agenda are the postponement and withdrawal lists, and I'll read these lists separately. Under automatic postponements, we have item 21, Hamilton Park, item 22, Stockton Property. Under 30-day postponements, any recusals? Number 42, Wilkinson Subdivision. Are there any other requests to postpone any items?
Got one, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion.
Well, we've got
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, the David Harbin 4334 Paper Mill Drive. I would request that item number 33, Tim Neal, be postponed for 30 days.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we have item number 33, Timothy Neal, requested by Mr. Harbin, and item 42, Wilkinson Subdivision. Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to postpone for 30 days as read.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Uten, seconded by Commissioner Boyer. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Under withdrawals, any recusals? Not. We have item 30, Taylor D. Forrester, revised. Terry, I'm sorry. Okay, one from the table list, Terry Romans.
Motion to withdraw.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Uten to withdraw. Second by Commissioner Boyer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Under tablings, we have item 23, William Mays, and an added item 40, Beeler Road Subdivision.
Motion to table as read.
We have a motion to table from Vice Chair Uten, seconded by Commissioner Boyer. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. There are no items to be removed from the table. Next on the agenda is the consent list, which is composed of items marked with a C. These items are considered non-controversial and are voted on all at once in order to save time. Items are listed in the order they appear on the agenda. Please listen carefully. Once an item is approved as part of the consent list, there will be no further discussion on it. I'll say that one more time. Once an item is approved as part of the consent list, there will be no further discussion on it. Item 2, approval of the July 13, 2023 agenda. Item 3, approval of June 8, 2023 minutes. Item 6, City of Knoxville. Item 8, Bernadette West. Item 10, R. Bentley Marlowe. Item 11, Christopher W. Martin, revised. Item 12, Mohammed Reza Basiri. Item 13, Patrick Smith and Amber Van Buren. Item 14, Benjamin Mullins. Item 15, Matt Brazil, Civil and Environmental Consultants, Inc. Item 17, Regency Associates GP. Item 18, North Shore Construction, Inc. Item 19, Ryan Dolan. Item 20, The Woods at Lonis Drive. Item 24, Thomas Scott Burdette. Item 25, Jim Odell. Item 26, Modern Expansion LLC. Item 27, Knoxville, Knox County Planning. Item 28, Knoxville, Knox County Planning. Item 29, Knoxville, Knox County Planning. Item 31, Ronald Profit. Item 32, Sam Hargrove. Item 34, Richard Toole and Laura Toole. Item 36, Homestead Land Holdings, LLC. Item 38, Steve Drummer. Item 39, JW Construction. Item 41, Wheelahan Farm. Item 43, Henson Developments. Item 45, Amanda Dykstra Wessel. Item 47, Amanda Pittman. Item 48, Doris Karina Estrada Aguilar. Item 49, Carlos Palacios. Are there any requests to remove any items from the consent list? Commissioner Midas.
Thank you, Chairman Hill. I'd like to remove number 10 from consent.
Okay, we have a request from Commissioner Midas to remove item number 10. And from the
Hello, Susan Lane, 7329 Millertown Pike. I am requesting item 36 be removed from the consent list.
Ms. Lane has requested item 36 to be removed from the consent list. All right. Commissioner Adams?
Did you say 34? You did.
Yes. Are there any others?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to,
Wait a minute, we may have a hand raised. What-
oops, sorry.
If you want to
Number 6.
approach, would you care to approach the podium, please?
George Reldenbush, representing the Council of Elders, and that's number 16. That would be 18. Actually, no, you have to come back down again. It's number 16. That's 15.
I think we're going to hear that. Yeah, we're going to hear that in
Okay.
the normal agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to list my objection to it. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I think we have Commissioner Higgins. Are you recusing from this vote? Okay, all right. So we have one recusal. So we have, I read the consent. We've asked for 10, there's been requests to have 10 and 36 removed. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion we approve the consent list with the exception of item number 10 and 36 to be heard as a normal agenda item.
Second. Okay. We have a motion by Vice Chair Uten to approve the consent list, lists 10 and 36, seconded by Commissioner Shelso. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. First item on the agenda is item number 5. The applicant is Damon Falconeer. Location, north side of Chickamauga Avenue, west of Mettler Street, east of Coram Street. Approximate size of tract, 0.67 acre. Present zoning, RN2, infill housing overlay. Zoning requested, RN4, and infill housing overlay. Existing land use, single-family residential, agricultural, forestry, vacant land. Staff recommendation. Approve the RN4 General Residential Neighborhood District because it is consistent with the sector plan and compatible with surrounding development. The infill housing overlay will be retained. It's just one. All right. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
You'll please state your name and address.
Damon Falconeer, 4622 Chambliss Avenue.
All right. And I think we have some opposition. Would you like to proceed or defer?
I would defer.
Okay. Ms. Michelle Ivester.
Good afternoon, Michelle Ivester, Chickamauga Avenue. I'm the current president of the Oakwood Lincoln Park Neighborhood Association, and I'm here to advocate for my community. I'm here today to ask you to deny the request for rezoning for this lot from RN2 to RN4. It's not an appropriate designation for this particular area, which apart from the odd apartment building that was somehow spot zoned and allowed to be built in the 90s, is predominantly single-family residences, and to expand the spot zoning to put in higher density housing in that area would compound upon that mistake. There's been substantial revitalization of the surrounding homes, and the neighbors take great pride in their properties. To ask a neighborhood to blindly support an out-of-character rezoning is unacceptable, and the surrounding neighbors would bear the brunt of the consequences of this unsuitable development. OPNA is well aware of the current housing situation, and we are actively involved in trying to find innovative ways to help with solutions and are supportive of responsible development in our area. However, changing the zoning in this area isn't that answer. Oftentimes, developers are not aware of issues that would directly impact neighbors, such as traffic calming, stormwater flooding, water and sewer system erosion, lack of sidewalks, cat service, all of these issues that are needed to be taken into consideration. And quite frankly, I was surprised and dismayed that the planning report seemed to imply that no initial studies needed to be done before approving this rezoning request. Changing the zoning from RN4 and allowing this proposed development would have a detrimental impact to the immediate neighbors. Our residents are wonderful advocates for our neighborhood. We support the mixed-use development off of Oswald and to continue to educate developers in our neighborhood that is under infill design guidelines, many which are, many which are unaware when they first come to the planning sessions. The neighborhood requested the infill design guidelines in 2007, and I'm not sure that the current developer is aware of them as well. Recently, neighbors on Chickamauga came together and requested traffic calming study, which is a feat in itself. We now have speed humps to alleviate speeding. We've requested sidewalks throughout the neighborhood to help keep the neighbors safe. We supported the downzoning of the former recycling facility, which caught on fire in 2019, and are actively monitoring its cleanup. We feel it's important to stay aware of items that may directly or indirectly affect us so that we can help bring awareness of possible issues that may occur with irresponsible development, which is why we ask that the request for rezoning to RN4 be denied or at the very least be delayed until the appropriate studies on the needed infrastructure amenities be initiated and completed. After speaking with the developer yesterday, we look forward to working together to come to a mutually beneficial proposal that all impacted parties can agree to. Once again, I'm here representing Oakwood Lincoln Park residents, and thank you for listening to our concerns.
Thank you for your comments. Ms. Jan Mullins? Oh, is she in favor?
They have two other people to speak.
Okay, all right. Let's see here. Matt Morlock.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Hi, David. Nice to meet you. As you've already heard from Michelle, the Lincoln Park residents are unopposed to continued investment and development in our neighborhood. You've heard and approved several of the infill housing developments that have happened in the neighborhood over the years, and I've done a lot to help solve the problems that we're having with housing in this city. So appreciate that. The neighborhood looks great. It's filling out and looking good. But the developers of the aforementioned properties did their due diligence in presenting their plans to the neighborhood association, to our city council person, and to the immediate neighbors affected to ensure that the new construction adds to the charm of the neighborhood, does not have a deleterious effect on the adjacent property values, and takes steps towards solving what we all know is a troubling housing crisis in this city. The vacant lot in question used to barely contain a very modest single-family home, one house, on a small lot surrounded by other small houses on small lots. And only yesterday, we discovered that a California real estate investor, Ihayani Nathan, and the LLC that he created to develop properties in Knoxville, the Chickamauga Dutch Valley Corporation, intends to somehow pack 8 units onto a lot that formerly barely contained a single house. Today you've heard from Damon, or you haven't heard from him yet, but you're going to. He's Yanni Nathan's agent in Knoxville. He's the architect in charge of drawing it up and making sure that y'all are happy with whatever he shows you, and he seems to be a really nice guy, and I want to make that very clear. Until yesterday, though, not a single person in our entire neighborhood knew who Mr. Falconier was. He was also unaware that we had a neighborhood association. And it just seems like a little hasty right now after all of the years that we spent, and some of y'all were on the commission when that happened, getting the neighborhood ironed out to be RN2, nice single-family homes. It's quickly improving. To jam 8 units onto a tiny half-acre lot in the neighborhood, we've not seen that the design meets the infill housing requirements. There aren't sidewalks. There's not an alley. And we're just kind of either asking to deny the RN4, maybe consider RN3, but at least delay this process until we've had a chance to get to know Mr. Falconier a little bit better, to see what they plan to do, and to make sure that we're all working together to make sure this is a responsible development. So I stand in opposition to the RN4 and hope that we're at least able to table this until we all have a chance to get to know each other a little bit better. So, thank you.
Thank you. Wes Breitenbach.
Wes Breitenbach, 726 Chickamauga Avenue. First, I'd like to thank everybody for allowing us to participate in this process. I wish that this was held at a time of day where the majority of the residents in our neighborhood could show up. A lot of people are at work and can't do that, and so fortunately there are a few of us that can make time for this, can afford to make time for this. I'd like to acknowledge the privilege of the people who have been able to show up in the middle of a work day, in the middle of a weekday. Our neighborhood's worked really hard to get the infill overlay, and if you look around the neighborhood, there are some houses that have been built over the past few years, and you would not know that those homes were put on those lots in the past few years because they fit perfectly with the neighborhood. And I think that's what we want. We want something that's going to fit with the neighborhood. We want something that's going to benefit the neighborhood. Adding traffic, adding strain on our utilities. We already have some of the worst water pressure in the city. And I know that's not your fault, but it's just going to add to those issues. No sidewalks, no place for the kids to sit out for a bus stop. All of these things that are currently going on, and this is just going to add to those stresses of our neighborhood. The Oswald development is something that is not on this topic, but it was something that I have seen happen in our neighborhood where it seemed like it was going to work out really good, and it didn't. They put 3 really ugly homes that don't fit the area. They left the lot behind it completely undeveloped, haven't even cut the grass over there, and we've got no idea of what's going to happen over there. So it's really left a bad taste in my mouth of the process because I don't trust what's going to happen because of what's going on over there. So until I think we have a definite idea of exactly what this is going to look like, at minimum it should be delayed. I mean, in my opinion, it should be ignored or rejected altogether. We have a very active community. We have seen a lot of stuff happen in this neighborhood over a long time. It's a historically working class neighborhood. And we know that there's a lot of issues with housing in Knoxville and all over the country. This is not going to solve that. I do also understand as a property owner that you want to try to get as much money for your property as you possibly can, and putting a single family home on this property is not going to bring that developer any money. At least it's not nearly as much as a multifamily development would bring. But I just don't think that that's the right choice for this particular area. There are many places in Knoxville that a development like this would suit really well and fit in perfectly. But Oakwood Lincoln Park is not that area. So I would just like that you guys would, at minimum, delay it, if not totally reject it, or whatever the proper termination for the zoning is, or the process. And I think that's about all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Thomas. Okay, thank you. Unless commission objects, we'll extend a little bit of time here. Okay, all right. Okay. Ms. Thomas, we'll give you 2 minutes on this.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm not part of the other group that is here to speak against this. I've lived in Oakwood for 27 years. These lots are not a good place for high-density housing. There's no safe way to a bus stop from this site. I served as president of the Oakwood Lincoln Park Neighborhood Association during RECODE. I attended multiple meetings. We hosted meetings for neighbors and sister neighborhoods. And we really wanted RN2 zoning. That was consistent from what we heard from our neighbors. How many of you drove to this site to look at the terrain? All right. Did any of you stop and park anywhere and try to walk to the local bus stop? Okay. You might have noticed that there are no sidewalks leading out to Bruin nor Central Street. There's no shoulder and 2 blind hills. I've been passed by speeding cars in this area despite the hills and the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. You really can't tell the terrain from looking at Google Street View. There were speed humps installed on Chickamauga at the request of neighbors, but I don't believe that they're in this area. So maybe it's better if you head the other way toward the Lincoln Park bus. Not really. There's still no sidewalks and more blind hills. But when you get to the 400 block of Chickamauga, there are some sidewalks, but there are cars parked on them. So you have to walk in yards or on the street. It takes a while to get to a major bus stop from the Lincoln Park bus. So that's some of the reasoning for this approval, that it's near the bus lines, which you can't get to safely on foot or bike. So here's my point. Neighbors wanted RN2 zoning during RECODE. We want to protect our small lot, small home, affordable housing stock. There are spots within the neighborhood that have small apartments that were built in the 70s or 90s, and these places have to be grandfathered in. They are not a precedent. When I look at this block in the current code, the existing code for the apartments at 251 Chickamauga are a mistake. How can a small lot be zoned RN5 in the middle of an area that is zoned RN2? How is RN5 a transition with a minimal lot width of 50 feet, but RN4, you need a 60-foot minimum lot width? What about with RN4, you can have 45-foot height, maximum height, and RN5, it's 35-foot maximum height. So there are some problems with the code.
Ms. Thomas, if you would, please wrap up.
All right. We can't build ourselves out of the housing crisis. We need leadership. Please deny this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We have Jan Mullins.
My name is Jan Mullins, and I'm the property manager of the sixplex that is located at 241
Ms.
Chickamauga.
Mullins, would you care to pull the microphone? I'm having trouble hearing.
My name is Jan Mullins. I'm the property manager of the sixplex that is owned by Mr. Nathan, that is next door to the property that we're requesting to rezone. I've been in property management for 40 years. When I move a tenant in, I start from an application. I go through the entire process of credit reports, background checks, landlord checks, and I require a credit score of 650 or more to qualify for the apartment with no evictions. By doing this, I have responsible tenants. They take care of the place. They're responsible to report anything to me which is stated in their lease. Their lease is 6 pages long, plus I have 3 pages of policies and a move-in inspection report. So I thoroughly go through the tenants, and I have great tenants right now. They report anything that is going on, water pressure, electrical, anything like that. I've never had any problems with, no issues at all. I've updated all the apartments except 2, and those people don't want the apartments updated. They've been there since 2011. They're set in their ways, and they just don't want it. Mr. Nathan is a very responsible owner. He lives in California, and he calls me on a regular basis several times a month just to check on things. I also send him monthly reports explaining any kind of activity, expenses, any questions that I have. He's great. The move-in inspection reports that I do, I have the tenants sign them, and I immediately take a picture of it, send it to my maintenance crew, and they get on it. I don't even allow smoking in my apartments. I don't allow cigarette butts flipped out on the parking lot. I'm just that strict. I wasn't aware of an association, a neighborhood association, which I would love to join to help keep the area nice, improve it. The speed humps were fantastic. And I just hope this goes through, and I appreciate you listening to me.
Thank you. Mr. Falconer?
I'm Damon Falconer, an architect whose address is 4622 Chambliss Avenue in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm representing the property owner, Mr. Nathan, and he owns that piece of property and would like to develop the empty lot located at 237 Chickamauga Avenue. He has chosen to invest over $1 million in this historic neighborhood and would like to help relieve some of the inner city housing shortage in Knoxville by creating 8 townhouses to be located next door to his existing townhouse at 241 Chickamauga Avenue. We have reviewed the multifamily housing user infill guidelines and will design the infill multifamily housing to respect the existing horizontal siding, shade trees, roof materials, and pitches as set forth in the design guidelines. Since this project is in the IH zone, the infill housing overlay, this project will be carefully reviewed by the Design Review Board before a certificate of appropriateness will be granted to the owner. We have spoken with the adjacent property owner, Matt Morlock, and he wanted to see how we would utilize the site with the proposed townhouse building concept. Based on the neighbor's request yesterday, we put together a site plan that visually represents the proposed building locations on the property and have shared the site plan with BAT. I have extra copies for the commission if each one of you would like to see our proposed plan. We also spoke to Michelle Ivester of the Oakwood Lincoln Park Neighborhood Association and have emailed the proposed site plan to her. This neighborhood has many houses in need of repair and would benefit from a catalyst project that of this magnitude, this financial magnitude, to encourage the continued repair and upkeep of the houses in the area. I spoke with the property owner today, and he was pleased to know that there is a neighborhood association that now exists and would like to contact them and join the association. The staff of the Planning Commission has expressed support of this rezoning based on their report that each of you have received. Recode Knoxville has established this area as a TDR zone, traditional neighborhood residential, in the Central City Sector Plan, which permits the consideration of the requested RN zoning. The RN zoning request is consistent with the General Plan Development Policy 8.1. I'm confident that this Planning Commission will vote in favor of this rezoning request, seeing the need for this type of development investment in this area to help the community and to be encouraged by this project. Thank you for serving this community, and thank you for your consideration of this rezoning request.
Thank you. Commission, Commissioner Adams.
Thank you. And thank you to all the neighbors who've spoken and to the applicant for providing this architectural drawing. I wanted to point out that we heard from an applicant, 2 representatives, and we heard from several neighbors. And no one in their comments from the neighborhood said anything about the reputation of tenants. They talked about the character of their neighborhood and the concern that they have for keeping RN2 instead of moving to an RN4 spot zone. It sounds like this is a neighborhood that is really walking their talk. They've been engaged in the recode process and tried to take intentional action to express what they want for their neighborhood. And that's exactly what I think we want as a planning commission and as a community, to have neighborhoods that are really active in trying to express what they want and then taking action there for it. The area is completely surrounded by RN2, other than one spot zone, which is completely adjacent to it. And I drove this just to make sure I got the case down correctly. And the RN5 really does stand out as an anomaly on that street. I did not see the raise of hands as to who else had driven this, but if you haven't, there's nothing else like that on the street. So it feels very odd. And to attach another spot zone to that, when I look at the drawing and think about what that would actually be like, it looks like the neighborhood would be gaining a large surface parking lot, as opposed to something that is consistent with the RN2 and the other houses that are there. With all that in consideration, I would like to make a motion to deny this rezoning and to keep it as RN2.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion to deny by Commissioner Adams, seconded by Commissioner Perez. Let's see, we've got more discussion here. We'll go to Commissioner Midas.
I agree with Commissioner Adams. I appreciate your comments as well as the comments that came from the neighborhood. You know, I've seen over the years the work of the leadership at Oakwood Lincoln Park has done, and a lot of it's been in result for properties just like this. You know, I remember going through the recode process, and the agreement was that multifamily development should be situated closer to corridors, not in the middle of a neighborhood, not surrounded by current RN2 zoning like this development could be. I'm very concerned about the asphalt that's going to be on this street and just the fact that it's just not compatible with the other residences that surround it, as well as, So anyway, I agree with Commissioner Adams. I will be voting against this.
All right. Commissioner Huber.
Thank you. I think I have a bit of a different take on it. This is exactly, I think, what we need, to be honest with you. I mean, it's the missing middle that we've heard so much about in the last 6 months and had massive studies on. And I greatly appreciate the neighbors and getting together and being, involved, because that is what we need, for sure, as a city and a county. And respectfully to the gentleman that got up and said, this one project's not going to solve the housing in town. This one will not. But cumulatively, if we keep denying small projects, 8 units here, 4 there, 10 there, it does add up. And it adds up to a significant amount. We've seen a lot of this growth in other sister cities that we have in Nashville, Chattanooga, things like that, where we've got a very convenient area inside the city limits that does get redeveloped over time. And that does still come with density. And I think that's really why the overlay is on there for infill. The key word is infill with that. My experience, with these types of things, it can be done respectfully. They still have to go through the design review board, which will require these things to fit with the other housing in there. I think it's a good thing. I will be supportive of it.
All right. Commissioner Higgins.
Thank you. Quick question for the applicant. Is there, based off your all study, does RN3 work for the owner's interest if that were a compromise to be offered?
Remind me just off the top of my head how many units that is.
Well, RN3 would allow for, if you're doing townhouses, 12,000 square feet for the first 3 units, and then 3,000 square feet for each additional unit. So if this is a 20, how many square feet is this lot?
.67, so about 30.
29,185.
So with the exception of the single-family house, that would allow for 9 multifamily units, 9 townhouses. Would that be acceptable,
Yes.
do you think?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and I don't know what the procedure to maybe get there could be, but just wanted to check on that. I do think that Commissioner Huber made a really good point about the infill overlay, that there's been a lot of conversation about compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood, and the very intention of the infill overlay is to determine whether or not a design is compatible with the neighborhood. And so in order to get approval with that, they would need to not only show the elevations and the views of the units, but also a site plan showing where things are located. I agree with some of the comments about the parking lot and asphalt kind of not being in the best site on the location, but we're not a design board here. So but I do think that when this goes to the design board, there will be discussions about that, about where those things are located, and they will need to show everything they're doing will need to be justified by compatibility with the neighborhood, using precedents from the neighborhood and showing that they're using the similar massing and scale of surrounding houses and developments. So I do think that if the concern is compatibility with the neighborhood, that will happen a lot with the design review board.
Yes.
And then also looking at this from a strategic standpoint of housing and density, this is a much more dense neighborhood than most neighborhoods that are zoned RN2. And looking at where this is in relationship to, say, Central, it's only 2 blocks away from Central, and I see that there's no sidewalks there, but I do think that is going to have to, that'll happen at some point. This Chickamauga definitely needs to eventually have sidewalks, and this may be one of the catalysts there. The city's engineering department may require them to include sidewalks in their construction. But yeah, I do think that looking at this individually, it does seem like a lot of density in a sea of single family. But when you zoom out just a little bit and see the other multifamily zonings, higher density zonings, and the proximity to major roadways, and then also just taking in consideration that from a standpoint of comparing this to a lot of other neighborhoods within the city, and I don't mean near downtown, I mean city broadly, this is a lot more dense than what we see beyond the perimeter of the 640 bypass. So I do think that there's it does seem like it's a step in the right direction of the future of how we will, continue to develop our city and respond to the needs for better housing. And yeah, so with that, I think I'd have to support it. But I could also support an RN3 as a good transition between the single family and the apartments next door.
So I just want to make sure we've got everything out here on the table to consider. If this motion fails, you make, and the applicant is agreeable, you might potentially make a motion for RN3. Is that what I'm hearing?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
I could.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to Vice Chair Uten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a little on the fence with this one. Last month we had a similar type of infill case where it was off of Southern Avenue, but in my view there, the catalyst we were looking for was fairly rough part of town, a lot of transitional industrial, old industrial, mobile home parks, and needed some stabilization that way and to kind of get folks to invest money there. here, you've got a old neighborhood that has worked with Planning Commission and come up with the ideas of these design review boards, and I just wish that this was further towards the edges of the neighborhood, not right in the middle, even though there's a spot that seems fairly random in the middle of the subdivision. So I guess I'd just like to hear from staff just real quick. What was the determining factor of why you went with yes instead of not wanting that to creep any further into this neighborhood, which would set, to me, a little more precedent for doing more of it, which I'm not sure was the original intent of Oakwood Lincoln Park. So just curious.
Sure. So with RN4, there are 2 layers of review here. You would have the infill design guidelines, so it would go before the design review board to ensure it's compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. But in RN4, depending on the number of units, there's either a staff level review where we look at the principal use standards for multifamily and townhome, or if it exceeds a certain threshold of units, it goes through the special use review where there's public notice and opportunity for public input. So for those reasons, it seemed like a beneficial way to get that infill in a way that accommodates neighborhood character.
Do you want to address the comment about spot zoning?
With regards to the RN5?
No, the 4.
Well,
Commissioner Adams had made a comment about her concern with spot zoning.
So we wouldn't consider it spot zoning if it's supported by the sector plan, and it is.
Thank you. Commissioner Shelso.
The adjacent sixplex was built in 1997. Our infill guidelines were adopted in 2007. So that sixplex would not, as it's currently built, be allowed. And I'm sure that sixplex is an eyesore to a lot of the neighbors. When they see it and they see a rezone case like this come, they fear that type of development. Just briefly looking over the infill guidelines, and I know we've got a rezone in front of us, not a site plan, but parking is supposed to be in the rear of the property. So I think there's probably some work that, given that the community really just started a discussion yesterday with the developer, I think that should this motion on the floor fail, I would be open to making a motion to postpone this for 30 days to give the developer time to talk with the community, come up with a plan that in all likelihood might fit better to the infill overlay in terms of what the neighborhood has decided in that process, what they want their communities to be built out like. So I would be in favor of postponing this for 30 days to allow the neighborhood to come together, as we do with a lot of our developments. So.
Commissioner Adams. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought your line was like Commissioner Huber.
Everybody bailed out on me over here, I think. Just one more point. I do think there's a direct correlation between, all of a sudden Knoxville was considered a very affordable place to live, and it has been for years, and that's part of the lure of moving to Knoxville. And then all of a sudden, it seems like overnight, for all of us who were born and raised here, we're actually, the price of housing is above the national average. And it happened in 12, 18 months, maybe.
Yes.
I just went straight up. And the same thing's happening with rents. We've seen 15% rent jumps every year for the last several years. And I think as we as a body need to keep that in mind, the affordability and for the blue collar folks. I mean, somebody mentioned that, it's a really kind of a blue collar neighborhood, which is beautiful. I love those. We need to find the balance of both between the two, of moving it forward, having affordable housing. And the only way to get there, I think, is going to be increasing some of the density, but at the same time, protecting the neighborhoods, with infill housing design review boards and things like that. So I just wanted to make that comment as I'm still in favor.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And while I haven't gone by this specific property in the last couple of weeks, I have grown up in that area, so I'm very familiar with that, with Chickamauga, and it's really a drag strip. Most of the time, luckily they put some speed humps to slow that down, but you know, the walking issue is definitely a thing. The only thing that concerns me about looking at this drawing is honestly just there's more square footage of parking lot than there is of the 8 homes. And I just think that's got me the most concerned, just knowing the character of that neighborhood and what's going on and what is in there. So I would tend to lean towards Commissioner Celso's idea of giving another 30 days for them to kind of work on this and communicate with the neighborhood a little bit more before we just take a definitive action either way, just because I believe there's still some things that could be done that might improve this, that it would fit better, and also making sure that all the design and everything they're thinking of actually fits in with the neighborhood. So that's my 2 cents worth of just where I'm thinking right this second.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams.
Thank you. Yeah, I came back. Just a few additional comments, having heard all of my colleagues speak, or many of my colleagues speak. I'll just reiterate Commissioner Uten's concern that this is in the middle of the neighborhood. I think Commissioner Midas said this as well. It's not on the edges, which would make more of a transitional sort of sense with a kind of change there. And there is at one end, I think if you continue this map to the right end, you see that there is some additional multifamily there. That's at the very edge. That's where we would expect that to be. So it's very concerning to me to see trying to expand that where there is a spot zone of RN5 or an anomalous RN5 and build that out there. It concerns me because it starts to put this precedent in the middle of the neighborhood, and that's what we don't want. That's not what I think the infill is really intended for. It's to fill in those spaces, but not in a manner that's going to change the character of the neighborhood. And I understand the design review process, that there are safety mechanisms in place to try and prevent that character from being changed. But it seems like an RN2 to an RN4, we have the opportunity to prevent that from happening now. So that's why I'm suggesting that we deny this request. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is about the neighborhood's actions that they've been taking themselves to retain the character of the neighborhood. Commissioner Huber talked about this being a blue-collar neighborhood and wanting to keep prices affordable. And I think that that is definitely the case, but what's happening in Lincoln Park right now is what they've got going is a good thing and they want to keep it going. It's a desirable place to be because of the historic character of the neighborhood. The density that is there is desirable. People want that in the historic homes. So when you start changing that character by expanding an RN5 in the middle of the neighborhood, you're really starting to compromise what a community has said that they want and is trying to keep. So again, just some additional comments having heard everyone speak.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. You know, we heard from several of the folks opposing it that they would desire maybe to get more information and potentially postpone this. We don't, it's not a requirement that you meet with the neighborhood. I think it's good business that we do, and so we can't require you to do that. But as far as I'm concerned, I would like to see a little more time, a little more dialogue with the community and the planning of this particular property. So if given the opportunity, I'm certainly going to vote for a postponement if we get there. Commissioner Midas.
I'll be brief. I just wanted to tag team what Commissioner Adams was saying and what Commissioner Huber was mentioning about affordability. Affordability in areas based on the income of the people that live there. Maybe 20, 30 years ago, Oakwood Lincoln Park was very affordable. That's not to say that a multifamily development that's going to be developed on Chickamauga is going to be affordable to the average Knoxvillian that's wanting to live there.
All right. Seeing no more lights, we have a motion and a second to deny RN4. All in favor say aye for denial. Any opposed?
No.
No.
Let's do a roll call. Ms. Karen?
Thank you. Commissioner Uten?
Aye.
Commissioner Boyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Huber?
No.
Commissioner Scelso?
No.
Commissioner Perez?
Aye.
Commissioner Higgins?
No.
Commissioner Levinson?
No.
Commissioner Biggs?
No.
Commissioner Barber?
No, yes, sorry.
Commissioner Adams? Yes. Commissioner Smith?
No.
Commissioner Midas?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
No.
I have 6 yes, 7 no.
Okay, so the motion fails. Chair will entertain another motion.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone for 30 days.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Scelso, seconded by Commissioner Levinson to, what? Oh, okay. Okay. All right, so I'll not restate that. I think I stated it somewhat accurately. To postpone. Seeing no other lights, all in favor to postpone, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 7, the applicant is City of Knoxville, location east side of Alcoa Highway and Dresser Road, north of Ginn Drive and south of Mount Vernon Drive. Approximate size of tract, 5.29 acres. Present zoning is no zoning, formerly CA in the county. Zoning requested CG1, existing land use, private recreation. Staff recommendation is to approve the CG1 district because it is consistent with the sector plan and surrounding development. Is the applicant present? Mr. Howley?
Chris Howley, City's Engineering Planning Chief, 400 Main Street, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37902. This property was recently annexed by the city, and through the process of annexation, when it comes into the city, it does have a no-zone designation. So the application that was presented to the Planning Commission was to have a comparable zoning to what was in the county at that time. The CG1 was what was recommended, and the city is in favor of that zoning designation. I do understand that there have been some opposition to this zone based on the adjacent neighborhood. And I think the bulk of the issues that I had read into it were about drainage and traffic. I do think some of those issues, to talk about those at this point, is kind of premature just at the zoning stage. We don't have any plans submitted or anything specific to discuss, so I think it is a little bit premature. However, at the same time, I will say that the piece of property adjacent to the subdivision is downhill of the subdivision, and it does have no direct access to the subdivision itself from an access standpoint. I don't have anything further, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Taylor Forrester.
Taylor Forrester, 1111 North Shore Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919. I represent the future developer of the proposed developer, development. You may recall in April we were here with the property to the south, that's CG1 now. The portion on the furthest south, kind of east corner there, we were here on a rezoning. It was an RN1, and we kind of bifurcated it to remain and retain that RN1 back against the neighborhood to kind of create a buffer. At that meeting, we discussed kind of our future plans, that we'd be coming with the annexation request for this CA zone parcel. That's already gone through City Council, and that's why we're back here on the no zone. Obviously, City Council rezoned this. This is Councilman Tommy Smith's district. I've been talking with Councilman Smith about this for over a year now, and he is very, very supportive of it, of the rezoning, of the future development. A longtime resident, community advocate for this area, Gene Burr, met with him, discussed with him. He's very supportive of this rezoning and the future development. This area, if you're familiar with it, it needs kind of a kickstart. I think this would be a good use of the property. Again, obviously, that's not why we're here today, but just kind of giving you an overview of what's led to this request. But it is compatible with the area, satisfies all the zoning ordinance requirements for a rezoning or zoning designation, and we'd ask that you support it. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Linda Billman.
Thank you. The Planning Commission staff recommends approval of the rezoning of the National Fitness property, formerly Course South, in order for an apartment development to proceed. The case information states that there will be no adverse effect on the adjacent neighborhood, which is our neighborhood, Martha Washington Heights. As the saying goes, the devil is in the details. Because residents of the neighborhood have not seen the overall concept, understandably, we have reservations about the project. So in order to head off and mitigate adverse effects that can result from lack of communication, transparency, and the push to get things to the finish line, I'm here to ask this body to set in motion 2 requests as you pass this along to the City Council. We realize the development will likely happen, and that the purpose of this agenda item today is to conform zoning with other parcels in the development. But we feel the need to use this as a forum to raise our wider concerns. We ask of you 2 things. If you approve this request, please remind and use your influence on the City of Knoxville of their commitment to living up to the goals of the Alcoa Corridor Study that this body, City of Knoxville, and County Commission approved. And second, we urge the property developer to meet and listen to representatives of the Martha Washington neighborhood before plans are fully drafted. I understand that there's a planning review process. We'd like a less formal meeting in advance of that to discuss the project, and I will request that the developer schedule that. One of the goals recommended in the Alcoa Corridor Study is to provide a unique sense of place for this section of the corridor. That would be done by creating standards and overlay for commercial development to include landscape screening, lighting, building orientation, and other similar considerations to create a consistent feel along the corridor. Another goal made recommendations to protect the character of the neighborhood, my neighborhood. I've heard that the developer has good intentions and that at some point we can meet and make a contribution, but we as a neighborhood are asking now for this body to use its influence to urge those representatives who will take the next steps to incorporate recommendations of the study. Otherwise, there's the potential for this proposed development and subsequent ones to be done piecemeal with adverse effects because no real overlay plan or its guidelines exist. These requests, along with those offered by my neighbors in the public comments on your website, are our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Mike Madden. Mr. Mike Madden. Okay, I think that's all the speakers that we have. Mr. Halley, I'd like to ask you a question, if you don't mind reapproaching. Yes. You know, we don't see these very often, so I think it's good for education of our body and the public to understand how we go from, I guess, a county zoning to no zoning to a new zoning, and what is the, just give me the method and the mechanism of how we do that.
Sure. In general, the annexations, first of all, are voluntary. So back in the olden days, the city was a lot more aggressive. State laws have changed so that that is no longer the case. They are all based on a voluntary nature. The process, it does require several approvals, and this project in one form or fashion has already been to this body in the form of a plan of services. In all, there are 3 different approvals that City Council makes for this overall process. However, once the overall process has been completed, which was about 2 weeks ago at the City Council's June 27th meeting, it formally becomes into the city at that time. Since the zoning in Knox County in the city don't have consistent exact zoning, we don't have that exact formation, then we requested by application to this body to get a comparable zoning to that. So as soon as it comes into the city, it has to go to no zone because we don't have any regulations for that type of zoning. And so this is the closest meeting to the approval meeting that we had at City Council. And so at this point, we are asking for a comparable zoning to what was the case in Knox County.
I may be diving too deeply, and I may stop halfway when I realize I am, but it seems like a landowner that voluntarily requests to be annexed would want to have some assurance of what that zoning would be before they jump over, if you will. So I guess there's no assurance other than, as a policy, you state that you'll make best efforts to get an equivalent zoning. Is that?
We rely on planning staff to make that recommendation for us. And so at the early onsets of going through the annexation process, they of course can ask staff at that time of what they see as the comparable, compatible zoning to what the Knox County has at that time, so that they have at least an indicator of what that will look like when they get to this point in the process.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Adams.
I just have a question. Mr. Forrester brought up the property that's right beside it that we did see recently, and I wondered, could staff remind me what the buffer is for that property? Because we went over that a good bit.
The typical boundary between a commercial and a residential property in the city is 20 feet, the landscape buffer that's required. I don't recall that we would have changed that or made that any bigger, but the default is 20.
What would it be in CA?
It's 15 in CA between commercial and residential.
So you're expanding.
Yes, that's
going
correct.
to CG1.
That's correct. And also, too, the CG zone has a similar height to CA. They're both 45 feet, just to kind of make that kind of more clear as to why CG1 was selected out of all the CGs.
So we
talking about that part. See how it goes up? That was not zoned. That's like a...
Right, I knew that. It's the part that is right above that line that is abutting the back of someone's single-family residence. And I thought that we had done some type of, I knew we discussed the buffer. I thought that there was some additional.
I can try to look that up for you real quick.
Commissioner Shelso.
I move to approve per staff recommendation.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Shelso, seconded by Commissioner Huber. Vice Chair Uten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do think that the zone is fairly obvious based on what we have out there today. I also would probably submit that the adjacent property owners have a better shot at lighting control and landscaping in the city than they would in the county, if that means anything. And I'm also going to assume, Mr. Forrester, can you approach the bench?
How about the podium?
didn't know if you were recognizing me or calling.
I try not to. Ms. Billman made a request that she be introduced to the developer and have correspondence relating to this site plan, and I'm assuming that you would publicly say that you guys would be more than happy to do that.
Absolutely. We exchanged, and I don't know if it was with her or a couple other people last time we exchanged some information.
Great.
But yeah, gladly.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, so, Ms. Porcher.
I just wanted to circle back to that. There was no additional landscaping buffer that was added, and actually in hindsight, I remember that we don't really add conditions for city zonings. So.
All right. Seeing no other lights, we have a motion and a second to approve per staff recommendation for the CG1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 9, the applicant, Virginia G. Burton, location, south side of Chapman Highway, east of Ellis Road, west of Anderson Drive, approximate size of tract 1.11 acres, present plan and zoning designation, low-density residential, hillside protection, single-family residential neighborhood, and hillside protection overlay. Proposed plan designation, general commercial, hillside protection overlay. Existing land use, single-family residential. And this one will require 3 motions. Staff recommendation is to deny the sector plan amendment to general commercial land use classification because it is incompatible with surrounding land use and infrastructure. Second motion, deny the 1-year plan amendment to the general commercial land use classification because it is incompatible with surrounding land use and infrastructure. And then the third motion, deny the CH2 Highway Commercial District because it is incompatible with surrounding land use and infrastructure. Is the applicant available?
Yes, my name is Brian Jones. I'm speaking on behalf of Virginia Burton, who is here with me, 405 Rainbow Road, Sevierville, Tennessee, 37862.
Thank you. Do we have any opposition? Seeing no opposition. Okay, you willing, or please proceed.
Okay. Virginia Burton is trying to get her son involved with business, and this is a perfect site for her plans to do basically a Hispanic grocery store. That's the kind of, they're not sure exactly what they want to do, but that's kind of the lead thing right now. And one thing that map doesn't show is that everything beside it on Chapman Highway there is CH2. There's a barber shop there, a coffee shop, and so forth. And it's just right there next to it. Back off the road behind it is residential, which a convenience store, grocery store, Hispanic grocery store would be very desirable to them, so they wouldn't have to walk as far to, get whatever they might need. Yeah, there's the CH2s that are across the street, and beside it, just about everything right around it in that area is already CH2. So it seems logical to us that this would be CH2 also, for her son to become a young entrepreneur and develop it into something that would be beneficial to him.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Commission? Commissioner Midas.
I love that she wants her son to have a business. That's great. I think my only concern is just the location. It's currently surrounded by residential. I just can't. I think staff got this right, and I think I'll be supporting staff's recommendation to deny it.
Is that in a form of a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Midas to deny per staff recommendation, and seconded by Vice Chair Uten. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Chair will entertain a second motion. Which would be? Motion. Yeah.
I recommend, make a motion to recommend staff's recommendation for the one-year plan to deny general commercial and hillside protection.
We have a second motion to deny the one-year plan per staff recommendation by Commissioner Midas, seconded by Vice Chair Uten. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Chair will entertain a third motion.
Okay, we'll make it three. I'm going to deny, make a motion to deny per staff's recommendation CH2, highway commercial and hillside protection.
We have a third motion to deny the highway commercial per staff recommendation by Commissioner Midas, seconded by Vice Chair Uten. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to go to 10. Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 10, applicant R. Bentley Marlowe, location southwest side of Callaway Street, north of Douglas Avenue. Approximate size of tract, 10,114 square feet. Present zoning, RN2, single-family residential neighborhood. Zoning requested, RN4, general residential neighborhood. Existing land use, single-family residential. Staff recommendation is to approve the RN4 single-family residential neighborhood district because it is consistent with the sector plan and with the surrounding development. The applicant is at the podium.
Hi, R. Bentley Marlowe, 322 Douglas Avenue, 37921.
Do we have any opposition? Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, you may proceed.
I'm just trying to have this property upzoned from RN2 to RN3. It was forced to become a larger parcel through
you mean RN4?
RN4, yes, sorry. Through the ward map issue with the city, there was a remaining half lot next in between 1214 and 1216. That city would not allow it to become a standalone lot, forced me to survey it and replat as part of 1216, which created a 10,100 and some odd square foot parcel. Sorry, I've been on a ride along all morning with public service in the homeless camps, so I thought this was on consent, so I don't have my file with me. So it's over 10,000 square feet, and you know, I'm very concerned about housing density and the missing middle report, and I just see an opportunity here. I live in the neighborhood. I live over on Douglas, 3 blocks away maybe. I own most of that block face. And I'm currently rehabbing the house next door at 1224. I'd redone the corner to 1100, and now I'm looking at 1216, and I'm wanting to increase density in a way that's responsible with the neighborhood. And the first step is to get the RN4, which would allow up to 5 units in the multifamily configuration.
Thank you. Commissioner Midas.
Thank you. I was the one that took it off consent. And I really just have some questions for you. I was concerned, just like as with the item 5 in Oakwood Lincoln Park, the fact that working at an RN4 amongst a sea of RN2, what is the width of that lot?
I believe it's 75 feet now, which is huge by Mechanicsville standards. And to differentiate this one from the earlier one, this is on the edge of the neighborhood. If you zoom out, you'll see, I think there's some RN5 close by, a bunch of CN, RN3 rather, CN, CG2's not far away. I mean, this is sort of the frontier of Mechanicsville, if you will.
Yeah, I'm aware of where it is. I guess the fact that single family surrounds it is one of my concerns. The fact that it's 75 feet wide, is staff, let's see, Whitney, does that mean that multifamily would be allowed on this lot, and given the width?
Yes, it could be allowed.
I guess and 35% would be the maximum coverage on this lot, is that right? Even if they do a multifamily?
That's correct.
So I guess just given the dimensions, and unlike with Oakwood Lincoln Park, there's no infill overlay guidelines to be able to review this for compatibility in the neighborhood. I'm going to make a motion to deny this rezone to RN4, mainly because of the fact that I don't see a multifamily going on that small lot and it being compatible within the neighborhood.
A second.
Okay, we've got a motion to deny for staff, a motion to deny RN4 by Commissioner Midas, seconded by Commissioner Adams. We still have more lights on. Commissioner Shelso.
So this is my neighborhood as well. Bentley is my neighbor, and I'm familiar with this property. I'm very familiar with the types of houses that are in this neighborhood. A lot of the houses, there are duplexes, there's a quad on University. A lot of the houses wouldn't necessarily be able to be rebuilt as they currently are under the zoning, just as the codes have changed over the years. So it's a relatively dense neighborhood already. There are sidewalks, there's a bus line. A lot of the concerns from agenda item number 5, it's not exactly the same. It's a small lot, so it's just over 10,000 square feet. If under RN4, it could have a maximum of 5 units. So it could be multifamily, but it's only 5 units. So I'm not against it. I am in favor of it, and I would like to make a motion upon a potential failure of the one on the floor to approve it per staff recommendation.
Commissioner Higgins.
I agree with Commissioner Shelso on this. I think that this is, this site is so close to DK zoning, so close to the downtown, our urban core. It doesn't really make any sense to try to prevent multifamily or townhouses here on this site. I think the infrastructure is there, and this is a neighborhood that, yes, it has a lot of single family, but it also has a lot of commercial, a lot of units that need or houses that are maybe blighted, a lot of blighted properties, and a lot of reasons why it makes sense for this to be multifamily. And just thinking about the walkability and the fact that it is so well connected to bus routes and other parts of downtown, I don't see a reason to oppose this. So I think I'd be in support as well.
All right. So for now, we have a motion to deny RN4. Before I go to a vote here, Commissioner Adams?
Just to quickly add on, because as Commissioner Midas pointed out, one of the differences is that there is no review process for this. And Commissioner Higgins is saying that, it's downtown, go ahead and put in multifamily. And I don't think that the issue is as much multifamily as it is the character of the neighborhood. And Mechanicsville is another one of the first neighborhoods that I feel like we really have a responsibility to protect and make sure that it retains that character and can be continue to be one of those special spots that is still very close to downtown, but has opportunities for single family and historic character of the city. So that's why I'm not in support of the change.
Ms. Porcher.
Thanks. Just a minor point of clarification. So in RN4, depending on how many units, it may end up coming before this body as a special use. So 5 or more units is a special use, 4 or less is a staff level review. But either way, they would have to abide by the multifamily rules for how the building is articulated within the code. just to be clear that there's a special use process if it's 5 or more units for multifamily. And there's another one for 9 or more for townhouse, depending on what he wants to do, if that's one of the uses he's wanting.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Shelso.
Do the so this alley, I mean, this property has alley access, correct?
Correct.
Right. So in part of the permitting process, would parking be required to be in the rear because it has alley access?
It wouldn't be required. We'd probably encourage it.
Yeah.
So if I may, this kind of goes in lockstep with the zoning amendments I've proposed that I believe will be heard at the August meeting. If I do multifamily at all, the plan is to do a detached multifamily, saving the approximate 120-year-old structure, and then doing 3 tiny homes and a cottage courtyard style development if the zoning changes. If not, by getting RN4, my conversations with Brian Berry, I could put 2 single-family homes. Under no circumstances am I going to raise the old house, cut down the mature trees, and build some monstrosity just to get density up. Because like I said, I live in this neighborhood. I'm vested in this neighborhood. So the plan is RN4 will allow me, with no change to the zoning code, what will likely happen will be 2 single-family lots, or 2 single-family homes on this lot. If by chance we make a change in the zoning code to press forward with missing middle housing, and I can do, for lack of a better term, what I'm calling detached multifamily, it would be save the historic structure, 3 tiny homes, and a carriage house, ADU.
Commissioner Adams.
I just want to, while I always love hearing what the plans are, that's not what we're supposed to be considering. Like, we're supposed to be making land use decisions not in light of what the person standing in front of us is saying. I'm not saying that that's not what you're going to do, but you might need to sell that property for some reason. You are not then the person who is going to be developing it. Someone else is who could have an entirely different plan and could take RN4 or whatever zone we're considering of the day to its fullest extent. So I just want to remind my colleagues that while the person who is speaking to us at the moment has articulated his plan, we're not supposed to be taking that into consideration when we're thinking about the zoning change.
I think that's a fair reminder. I don't think any of us were doing that, but it's a fair reminder. Commissioner Midas.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams, for mentioning that. And you know, if this was, if you were wanting to divide this and put RN2 on both of those, because you could do that if you wanted to do duplex on 2 duplexes on that parcel, is that correct?
No, not 2 duplexes, no ma'am.
So in RN2, oh, okay, wait, never mind. I take it back.
This was a full ward map lot, and I was forced by the city to combine a remnant half ward map lot. They would not let the half ward map lot exist by itself, and that's how this thing created a 75-foot wide lot, which is way out of character for Mechanicsville. Most lots in Mechanicsville are either 25, 30, or 50 feet wide.
But you said your intention is for 2 duplexes?
No, ma'am. I'm going to save the original structure, approximately 120-year-old house. I'd like to do a rear loading from the alley garage with an ADU above it on what was the original ward lot map, and then on the half remaining lot, which is the part closest to the bottom, 25 feet wide, I'd like to, in between the mature pecan trees, place 3 tiny homes, site-built tiny homes.
My motion still stands.
Commissioner Huber.
Just a comment, I guess, and respectfully to Commissioner Adams. You know, I think we are following the plan with an approval of this. I mean, from a sector plan perspective, as the staff pointed out, it calls for this type of housing to be built in that area. So I'd be in support of it.
Okay, let's get to a vote. So the motion on the floor is to deny RN4. All in favor to deny, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, probably easier just to raise the hands on the ayes. Okay, so we've got two ayes. Got that, Ms. Karen?
Yes, so it would, 2 ayes and it would be 11 noes.
Correct.
Everybody else didn't.
Okay. Chair will entertain a new motion.
I move to approve RN4 per staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Shelso to approve RN4 by per staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Huber. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have 2 opposed.
Have it. Thank you.
11 in favor. Is that correct, Ms.
Yes,
Karen?
11 in favor, 2 opposed.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 16, the applicant is Regency Associates GP, location north side of Lonas Drive, west of Tonalea Road. Approximate size of tract, 4.88 acres. Present plan and zoning designation, low-density residential, hillside protection, single-family residential neighborhood, and hillside protection overlay. Proposed plan designation, hillside protection and medium-density residential. Existing land use, rural, residential. We have, this is going to require 3 motions. Staff recommendation for motion 1 is to approve the sector plan amendment to the medium-density residential land use classification because it is consistent with surrounding development and the hillside protection will be retained. Motion number 2, staff recommendation, approve the 1-year plan amendment to the MDR land use classification because it's consistent with surrounding development. Hillside protection will be retained. Motion 3, approve the RN3 general residential neighborhood district because it's consistent with surrounding development. Hillside protection overlay will be retained. Applicant present.
Yes, Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street, here for the applicant.
Do we have any opposition? Seeing no opposition, Counselor, you may proceed.
I appreciate the staff's recommendation on this. This is 3 motions here. The sector plan amendment and 1-year plan amendment is to extend the medium density residential from, if you go to the sector plan map, you'll see there's several areas of medium density residential, including the properties immediately to the south and the west. And then to change the zoning of this property from the current RN1 to RN3, which is a good transition from the more dense RN5 there to the west, and of course you also have RN3 and RN6 there to the south, into that single-family residence there. As staff pointed out during the agenda review, this is in close proximity to various job centers and also civic institutions like the elementary school in Pond Gap and South College. And in this area, there's already a diverse range of residential zones, and this kind of serves as being a buffer from the more intense apartments there on RN5 to the RN1. Again, RN3 allows for single-family residential, allows for duplexes, and it also allows for townhomes. If townhomes were to move forward, they would come back before this body on a special use, so that you would have the opportunity to look at, the townhome development and whether it's compatible with the single-family residential. Also, with the townhome, there are landscaping requirements in Article 12 that will apply as well. No, it'll have to be a landscaping plan that would come forward with that special use application. I have been in communication with the Lonas Drive Community Association and had several emails with them about their questions about this development. I did have an in-person meeting scheduled with them for Friday. Unfortunately, I had a family issue that had to cancel that. I tried to reschedule it this week, either by Zoom or in person, and the email I got from the Polly Doka, who is not only the president of the association, she also owns the first 2 lots there on, I can't read the Tongalea Road. She said, I think the neighbors are comfortable and understand the types of development that are possible, so we're fine for now. Please let us know the direction of the final plans. Also, there's some questions about the slope protected areas, which is most of our neighborhood. I think communication is the key, and I appreciate you keeping us informed. Thank you. And that was the last email I received from the association. I did respond and pointed out that the hillside protection area is being retained. There are disturbance limits, and again, that's something that would be looked at once we move forward with a development plan. My client doesn't have a specific plan in mind. I suspect they would look at townhomes first to see what that looked like. But whenever that occurs, we'll move forward and come before this body. So with that, I appreciate the staff's recommendation. I'd ask that you follow it and approve these motions. Thank you.
Vice Chair Uten.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion we approve the sector plan amendment per staff recommendation.
We have a motion to approve the sector plan amendment per staff recommendation by Vice Chair Uten, seconded by Commissioner Boyer. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the one-year plan amendment to MDR per staff recommendation.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Uten to approve the one-year plan amendment per staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Boyer. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I'd like to make a motion that we approve the rezoning request from RN1 single-family residential neighborhood to RN3 general residential neighborhood and leaving the hillside protection overlay.
Motion by Vice Chair Uten to approve the RN3 per staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Boyer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Number 33, is that right? 35. Thank you. Thank you. 35. Item number 35, applicant Dale Akins, location north side of Hardin Valley Road, east of Westcott Boulevard. Size of tract, 2.95 acres. Present plan designation zoning, office, stream protection, agricultural, floodway, office, medical, and related services. Proposed plan designation zoning, general commercial, stream protection, and general business, floodway. Existing land use, rural residential, and water. Staff recommendation. This is going to require two motions. Staff recommendation, first motion would be to approve the sector plan amendment to the general commercial land use classification because it is a minor extension of that land use class at an existing commercial node. The stream protection land use classification will be retained. Second motion is to approve the general business zone for the area outside the floodway zone because it is a minor extension of the commercial node and is not anticipated to create any adverse impacts subject to one condition: the floodway zone will be retained. Is the applicant present?
I am. Dale Akins. I reside at 12624 Barnstable Lane.
All right. Do we have any opposition? Seeing no opposition, please proceed.
I wrote a development proposal that's pretty much everything that I need to say is in that three-page amendment. So out of respect for your time, I won't reiterate what you've already seen in writing probably, and I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Commission?
Questions?
Commissioner Smith.
Just out of brevity, I want to make a motion that we approve per staff recommendation the plan amendment to the CG land use classification because it's a minor extension of that land use class at an existing commercial node.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Huber to approve the sector plan per staff recommendation. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the CA general business zone for the area outside the F floodway zone because it's a minor extension of the commercial node and is not anticipated to create any adverse impact subject to one condition, that the floodway zone will be retained.
We have a motion to approve per staff recommendation on the rezoning to CA. by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Huber. Seeing no light, we have one light. Commissioner Shelso.
Yeah, I want to clarify, the condition, is that per the staff recommendations condition?
Yes.
Okay, which includes the full FEMA floodplain too. Yeah.
All right, seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Item 36, applicant Homestead Land Holdings LLC, location south of Millertown Pike, east of Presnell Road. Approximate size of tract 37.14 acres. Present zoning agricultural. Zoning requested planned residential. Existing land use agricultural, forestry, vacant land. Density proposed 4 dwelling units per acre. Staff recommendation: approve the planned residential zone up to 4 dwelling units per acre because it is consistent with the sector plan designation. Is the applicant present?
Hello, Russ Rackley Engineering, P.O. Box 30456, Knoxville 37930.
Do we have any opposition? I'm assuming you want to defer. So the opposition, you're free to speak. You'll please state your name and address.
Hello, good afternoon. Susan Lane. The address is 7329 Millertown Pike. My husband and I own the property directly across from this area at 7336 Millertown Pike. Firstly, we would prefer to have the zoning remain agricultural. We've owned this property for well over 30 years. My parents, in fact, owned approximately 10 acres before they passed for over 60 years. So I have been in the area for quite a long time and very familiar with the area, obviously. Keeping the agricultural zoning would support farming and encourage locally grown food and just keep the aesthetics of the area. But more importantly, the concern of the 4 dwelling units per acre is the safety concerns. Per the staff report, the traffic impact is 1,447 average daily trips. This area of Millertown Pike, the speed limit is posted at 40 miles per hour. That is not adhered to. We have, like I said, we've been there for over 30 years. We have had many accidents right in front of our house come into our property. There's, like I said, 40 is the speed limit, but that's not adhered to. So it's already, a dangerous area. Just going to the mailbox can be a bit hazardous. And also in the report, it references the distribution center at I-640 that's been built. And that already, even though that facility is not operating, but there's already bottlenecks of traffic in that area. So obviously we would request the denial of the rezoning from agricultural to the planned residential, the 4 dwelling units per acre, just due to the volume. So thank you for the opportunity to present my concerns.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Lane.
We are in agreement with staff recommendation, recommending approval. This property is in the urban growth boundary. Its sector plan designation is low density residential. It directly abuts to planned commercial behind it. And any development that gets anywhere near 4 units an acre on this 36 acres will trigger at concept needing a traffic impact study that will look at traffic impacts and any required improvements in the general vicinity. That comes later at the concept stage if we're able to develop it, take the next step once zoning is passed. So with that, respectfully request approval subject to staff recommendations. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve the planned residential zone up to 4 dwelling units an acre because it is consistent with the sector plan designation.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Barger to approve per staff recommendation. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item number 37, applicant Russell Homestead Land Holdings LLC, Rackley. Location, northwest side of Nubbin Ridge Road, west of Wallace Road, approximate size of tract, 1.65 acres. Present zoning, low-density residential. Zoning requested, planned residential. Existing land use, single-family residential. And density proposed up to 6 dwelling units per acre. This will require one motion. Staff recommendation is to approve planned residential zone with up to 4 dwelling units per acre because it is consistent with the sector plan designation and will allow development compatible with the surrounding land uses and zoning pattern. Okay. All right. And I see the applicant is present. And do we have any opposition? Yeah, we had someone, Erica and Teresa Nelson. They're not present. They're not virtual. Is that right? Okay.
They didn't last, I guess. I don't know.
All right. You may proceed.
Yeah, this is a 1.65 acre tract on Nubbins Ridge. It also is in the urban growth boundary. Its sector plan is LDR. It's part of the West City sector plan, which was last updated in 2018 and defines LDR as up to, in the county, up to or less than 6 units an acre, so PR less than 6. Our intention on this would be to do some infill in the 37919 with townhomes, 6 units an acre on 1.6, or PR up to 6 on the 1.65 would allow us for 9 townhomes. So basically 3 triplexes on a small cul-de-sac road. I think that the request for PR less than 6 is consistent with the sector designation. And then staff made reference to the surrounding development, but I guess the question is what is surrounding? How far out do we look? Because there's PR 5, 500 feet to the west. There's PR 7, 1,500 feet to the east. There's PR 15, about 2,000 feet to the south on Wallace Road, which is not a major collector as Nubbins Ridge is classified as. So with that, the difference is PR 6 would allow us to do 9 townhomes. PR 4 would be 6 units, which is 3 less units in a townhome and more, it's cliche at this point, but the empty middle to create more housing choices, more housing opportunities in what is a desirable area of West Knoxville. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Commissioner Midas.
Well, I was just going to ask one quick question of engineering, just because we haven't picked on him today. Where's Jim Snowden?
He is on vacation today.
That's unacceptable. He knows when these meetings are. No. With that, I think the staff got this one right, so I was going to make the motion to approve the planned residential zone up to 4 dwelling units an acre because it's consistent with the sector plan designation and will allow development compatible with the surrounding land uses and zoning pattern.
Well, let's see now. Your light is working, right?
Mine?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I hit the wrong button.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
It's an ID10T error.
Okay.
I'll write that down and see what it actually stands for.
Okay. All right. Let's see now. Okay, so there is a motion. We've got a second by Commissioner Barger, and this is for 4 dwelling units per acre. Commissioner Midas?
Well, I mean, I guess I can go either way. I was actually thinking, when I looked at this, I realized that you mentioned in the staff comment that the subdivisions were primarily built 15, 20 years ago. I just wonder, given the change of the growth in that area, if, 6 dwelling units, if that is probably, it seems like a relatively flat lot. I don't know. That seems like it may be a fair request, So, but
I would agree. Again, just a point, if this were 30 acres, 6 units an acre is something different, but this is literally the difference between 6 townhomes or 9. 6 units an acre gets us 9 townhomes, 3 triplexes. And this is not in hillside protection, even though it's in the county. It's not hugely steep. There's utilities available, and it's on a major collector. And if we don't start, and the character will be there. These will be trying to get, it's the difference at PR6. Maybe we can hit 350 a piece. At PR4, they're going to be, $450,000, $500,000 townhomes, and that's not doing a lot to help what is needed in the county. So I respectfully ask you to consider PR6 on this because it is consistent with the sector plan. The character of the neighborhood will be there. These will be very nice townhomes, very upscale. So I ask for you to consider 6 units an acre.
Commissioner Smith, how firm are you on the 4?
I am movable.
Okay. Would you entertain 6?
I would.
Would you like to revise your motion?
I'm not going to repeat all that, but I'm revising my motion to move that from 4 to 6 dwelling units an acre.
Now we'll move to Miss Commissioner Barger and see how movable she is. Would you be willing to revise your second to 6? Yes. Okay. Well, let's take a go at that and see where it takes us. Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Smith to approve per staff recommendation with 6 dwelling units per acre.
Per staff, sorry.
Per staff recommendation?
No, now it's just our recommendation.
No, excuse me. That's right. Thank you for that correction. For applicant's request for 6 dwelling units per acre, seconded by Commissioner Barger. Everybody clear on that? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
We've got, how many no's we got? Give me a hand. One no.
One loud no.
1 no. Commissioner Shelso, the lone no. Right, Ms. Karen? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Agenda item 44, applicant Giselle Buccolini. Location, northwestern terminus of Corridor Park Boulevard, east of Level Road. Approximate size of tract, 3.63 acres. Zoning is Business and Technology Park, Technology Overlay, existing land use, agricultural, forestry, vacant land. Proposed use, office warehouse. This will require one motion. Staff recommendation. They recommend approval of an office warehouse of approximately 15,559 square feet, subject to 5 noted conditions. Is the applicant present?
Will Robinson, 1248 North Shorewood Lane, Caryville, Tennessee.
Do we have any opposition? Seeing none, Mr. Robinson, if you'd like to proceed.
What we have, it's a 15,000 square foot office warehouse building. It's in Corridor Park, in an industrial park. We comply with all the setbacks. We did request, and we have been before TTCDA, we did request a waiver for 30 spaces where the maximum allowed was 23. 30 is very reasonable for this use. We've applied for a TDEC permit. We've already applied with Knox County Engineering. We're well on the way. It's, like I said, it's a great project. It'll be an asset to the community, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams.
I just wanted to ask, the motion or the staff recommendation says 5, and then there are 6 bullets underneath it?
Sorry, that's a typo.
Okay, so it should be 6.
It should be 6.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion to approve based upon staff recommendation and the 6 conditions.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve per staff recommendation with the noted 6 conditions, seconded by, I'll pick one, Commissioner Levinson. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, folks.
Item 46, applicant Holston Springs LLC, location west of the intersection of McCubbins Road and Carter Mill Drive. Approximate size of tract, 43 acres. Zoning is agricultural. Existing land use, rural, residential, agricultural, forestry, vacant land. Proposed use, rural retreat. Staff recommendation, this will require one motion, and that is to approve the request for a rural retreat with an indoor event facility building with approximately 3,700 square feet of floor area, subject to the noted 5 conditions. Is the applicant present?
Hey, I'm Bobby Bramhall, Holston Springs LLC, 733 McCubbins Road and 1144 Wooddale Church Road.
Thank you. Do we have any opposition? Okay. Would you like to proceed or defer?
I'll defer to the opposition.
Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My husband and I, Jerry Wood Jr., and my name is Irene. We are at 536 Quorum Road. We are the property that is on the west, northwest with the pond. Yes. There's 16 acres there. So we're in the southwest corner. We had spoken with Mr. Bramhall and to express our concerns with regarding this rural retreat. Just to note, he's a very nice man. We know that this is a business enterprise for him. He doesn't live there, but we do live there on that property. And when I go over the standards for use on review approval of the retreat, I'll notice on F, it says recreational uses incidental and subordinate to the primary rural retreat use are permitted and may include, and then it goes on to say campfires and I guess campground. As well in H, they have overnight accommodation, if approved as part of the development plan, shall be accessory to the primary use of the property as a retreat and shall not be open to the general public as a standalone use. And then they talk about maximum stay. Then 4.104.03.2 says only event guests are permitted to stay overnight at the facility. So in talking about that, we can see these tents that are there from our property. We can literally just see them. We have not given our waiver for the 200 feet setback because these tents are within 15 feet of our property line. Our property line consists of, our property on that side consists of hillside protection as well as about 5 acres of just forestry. We were actually shocked, since this facility has been running since 2021, that this was not permitted ahead of time, and the campground was not permitted ahead of time. And when we went to look at the campground, by which he says that there's 2, there's actually 3. And if you just go to his website, it simply tells you that they are available for rent on a standalone basis. They are made out of wood on stilts and canvas. They provide indoor propane heating. 1 pound, they will sell you 1 pound or 20 pound propane tanks. That's on their website when you go to reserve a reservation for any length of time. It's not really clear whether it's 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, or 21-year-olds that can rent these properties. They have open campfires and without any rings. And I am shocked that a fire marshal hasn't, I mean, we don't see a campground permit. We're very concerned because we have only forests there that we need to protect. Our neighbors that have a 5-acre cutout within our property have a little goat farm, and that would be in danger if anything caught fire. So my understanding when we spoke with Mr. Bramhall, who is a very nice man, and we have no issues with him. We want him to be successful commercially, but like I said, we live there and we're concerned about our own property, and we're also concerned about liability. If they have hiking, if they have dogs, if whatever they have, there's nothing preventing them from coming onto our property and then committing a liability for us. We have a 1.5-acre pond where, with a very steep embankment, someone could fall. Any number of things could happen. One of the issues that we have, to be frank, is that these standalone glamp Knox and the standalone cabin has been running without being permitted or zoned since 2021. And they are continue to be ran without zoning, without permits. If someone can please show me a permit, I would appreciate it. There's obviously, by looking at the website, which is strawberrycreektn.com, there's obviously reservations that are made continuously. There's comments going back to 2021.
Irene, if you could, and I'm sorry to call you by your first name, but I didn't catch your last name. But
Wood.
Wood.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Wood, would you care to wrap up?
Okay. So our concerns are that even if you were to approve this rural retreat, how do we have any assurances, because we don't have any today, that these campground and the other facilities, the other cabins won't be run, won't continue to run without any sort of permits or having gotten the right permission from the fire marshal even? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wood, for your comments.
Thank you, Ms. Wood. The first question I'm going to say is that anything that's not the barn event center is actually not at issue in this hearing. So we're actually just approving, for Mr. Reynolds' discussion, just the actual main facility on the property. But I'm happy to make some comments. I believe there's no restrictions in Knox County for VRBO and Airbnb residences, and that's what she's speaking of. They are 30-year structures. We do have a cabin on property. The cabin has actually been waived in. We got the property waiver this morning from the only property that's adjacent. They can actually see the property. Respectfully, their property is in no view of our property in any way. It's behind it. There's a huge forest in between it, and there's absolutely no visibility of anything that we have on our property from the Wood property. The one property that is adjacent that you can see, I did receive the waiver this morning from Brandy Carr. They've been there for 60 years. I believe her grandmother grew up in our cabin that we rent out on Airbnb and VRBO. And they are, so excited whenever we do something good. We've never been a disturbance. And so they were happy to sign the waiver. So we do have that. The other waiver from the adjacent property is Roy Bates, who I've not been able to contact. All mail has been returned to sender. So I've received all my mail back, certified, regular mail, and the mail on KGIS, the mailing address. So that's my comments there. As far as anything else, nothing's going to change about this property. It's a horse farm. It's very beautiful. It's something that, you know, is going to retain its allure whenever you pull in. We're not doing something crazy that's going to be out of character for the neighborhood. And, you know, we're everything local. Local hardware store, True Value, you know, Dusty Lee, all the guys down there. I mean, everything is Strawberry Plains. So having received the setback waiver, having received the rural retreat opportunity to appear before this committee, we respectfully request that we can make the changes that the staff recommends and proceed with the event center. I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams.
Chairman Hill, can you just confirm, and maybe Mr. Reynolds as well, exactly what we should be considering?
The indoor facility only.
Only the indoor facility, and it's...
Not the tents, the indoor facility. And I would just remark that if there, you know, most things are, Ms. Wood, to your concern, typically are complaint driven for compliance. You know, if you see something that's not compliant, let the proper officials know, and then they will look to enforce the regulations. So.
And if I may comment on that, what I plan to do is, I thought it was VRBO and Airbnb, and we do rent our cabin on Airbnb and VRBO. If there's any restrictions that I need to comply with, I am going to be happy to comply. So, thank you.
The other question is about, so anything we're doing with waivers, irrelevant to what we're talking about right now. And then in terms of it being a post facto request, we have no responsibility in terms of before or after, just considering the case as it is now.
That's correct. All right, Commissioner Midas. What's that?
Well, I guess I have a question for staff. It seemed like the last time this came up was regarding the Folklore Village. And in that situation, they were wanting to have residences or houses for guests. If we approve this, is that allowed with the rural retreat? I'm not sure who's on, which staff member it is.
Mr. Reynolds. It's working.
Let's see if this, is this on? Okay. So I haven't personally received the waiver information yet, so the cabin, as of right now, the way if we approved it today, we'd be only looking at the event center itself. The rural retreat you can approve accommodations as part of a rural retreat. In this case, all the accommodations on the site are within that 200-foot buffer, so they do need the waivers in order for the Planning Commission to even consider those. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I mean, so we're not approving additional units, additional accommodations for overnight stays. Okay.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure that Mr. Bramhill knew that as of right now, I know you have it sounded like you have a waiver. I didn't have it before the meeting. If you can. So basically, the waiver that's been provided, it's similar to what we've used before. He's used it as a template. The neighbor across McCubbins Road, the Carr family, said that they agreed to the waiver basically as the structure already sits on the site. They didn't call out a certain number, but the structure is already there. So it's the cabin that he referenced.
Okay, let's see here. Commissioner Smith.
Okay, a couple of questions. One, let's go back to what you just read. As I'm looking at it, if I'm looking at it correctly, the cabin, I guess, is actually closest to the Wood property, not to the one to the...
No, the cabin is the one that's near McCubbins Road.
Sorry, that's the glamping tents.
Yep.
All right, the second question, and this is more for our esteemed legal expert. As I'm looking at the motion as it's written in here, I guess my question is, it looks like we would be making a motion to approve the request for a rural retreat with an indoor, not just only focused on the indoor facility. So that's where my question comes in. It looks like we're actually doing more than just the indoor facility.
What's before you, though, is specifically what's spelled out in that staff recommendation. That's the consideration.
And Commissioner Smith, if you look at condition number 5.
That was going to be my second question, is just making sure that the Woods knew that the 5th condition is in there, that they're not, under what we're doing, they're not allowed to operate within 200 feet of the setback of the property line just because we're not approving that. That's something totally separate that would have to be done later on. So I just wanted to make sure that the motion and everything we were doing was clear for the neighbors and stuff. So.
And you're clear now.
I'm as clear as mud.
Yeah. All right. Commissioner Higgins.
I am also about as clear as mud, but my specific question to hopefully help my understanding of what we're actually voting on, there's drawings of a barn with an addition. So this is an existing building that is getting an addition, and we are approving this use because of this addition. Is that correct?
No, it wasn't just for the addition. The rural retreat was never approved.
Okay.
As a rural retreat to begin with.
So we're doing both things. We're approving for this addition and.
Yeah, I mean, the addition is part of it, just because that's part of the request. But yeah, it's for the full facility as proposed.
Okay, so the request isn't really dependent on the site plan, or
well, it is dependent upon the site plan as well. But you're correct. There is the facility itself. The existing structure is pretty much there. There's just small additions being added, I guess, to accommodate like ADA and bathrooms and such. So,
gotcha. Maybe I should have said not dependent on the addition, I guess, because it is dependent on the site plan and the use, correct? Okay. I think I've got a better understanding of it now.
Help Commissioner Smith out over there. He's still looking perplexed.
Well, and again, I go back to what was stated is we're only doing something related to the building, but what was just stated is we're actually making the whole property a rural retreat with this building kind of.
Well, they have to call out their use areas because the use area, the only thing that they've called out as of right now is basically the parking lot, the building, also with the waiver that they have for the cabin, as long as the Plan Commission agrees to it and approves it, they could use the cabin as part of the rural retreat. But they couldn't all of a sudden change and like, use a different part of the property they didn't say was part of the retreat to, whether it's like outdoor gathering spaces or such as, so they need to stay within the areas that they're.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, as I'm looking at this plan where the glamping tents are, they would not be allowed, with any action we do here today, to continue to rent those because it's within the 200-foot setback. They would have to go, basically put those on pause, or the neighbors could report them to codes, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
They're within the waiver or within the buffer, and campsites are not permissible in the ag zone, so they would have to have them approved as part of the rural retreat.
Commissioner Barger.
Hello. I'm not clear at all. And I had my hair dyed reblonde last week, so this is killing me. I've been to your facility a bunch. It's gorgeous. But it's been running as an event facility for years. So I guess this is a question for staff. What's the difference between what he was doing yesterday and what he's doing today? Does that make sense?
Well, with this approval, it will be done legally.
How
Good answer.
How old is Rural Retreat?
2017.
So relatively new.
I believe that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And a quick comment for you, Commissioner Barger. When I came in 2016 to the commissioner, to the zoning office, I actually was asking for this permission, and they said that this was popping up and happened a lot. And I think you may own a wedding facility as well that may have been converted at one point into the zoning code. And so it's like I was asking these questions, and they said, "Oh, we're working on something. We'll let you know." And so I did not know in 2017 that it actually was approved. So I've been here 3 times trying to figure this out. So it's not for lack of trying.
Oh, I wasn't. I was just,
absolutely.
clarification. Commissioner Uten, I think, is over there when we came before a long time ago, and they invented a zone for us called transition. So
That's
I feel
great.
your pain.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see here. How is it I keep writing your name down, Commissioner Adams, and your light's not on? Okay, yeah, okay. Commissioner Higgins.
I would just like to make a motion that we approve as written per the staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to approve per staff recommendation by Commissioner Higgins. And who seconded it? Commissioner Shelso? Is that right? Okay. Commissioner Shelso. Seeing no other lights, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I
Wait a
just
minute. We've got a concern from Mr.
No,
Reynolds.
I just want to verify that the commission, you intend to approve the cabins with the waiver that's provided. Is that one cabin near McCubbins, right? The existing house.
Okay, hang on.
Is that what? Because it was just condition number 5 is just a little bit. It kind of leads towards not approving anything that's in accommodations. But I just want to make sure that if you do want to approve the cabin near McCubbins, that's your intent. Sorry.
I thought it approved the cabins or any overnight with the waiver. Rural Retreat allows overnight accommodations.
Except condition 5 says that any waiver would have to be on a different application.
Yes.
So we're not approving that in his motion. That would have to be on another application.
That's correct.
The guy who had the most trouble figured
This
it out.
is why I asked my question, to make sure I was clear.
Okay, so I think we had a motion that passed. Is that correct? Let's just vote again. Oh, how about that? Okay, so let's make sure we got our motion. Approve the request for a rural retreat with an indoor event facility building with approximately 3,700 square feet of floor area, subject to the 5 conditions. And we had a motion and a second.
I unsecond.
We've got an
I'd like
unsecond
to-
now.
With that clarification, I think I'd want to amend my motion, so, if allowed.
All right. Sure.
Well, given the fact that this has been operating and it began operations before this existed, this designation existed, I think that the cabin should be excluded, and I think that requiring them to come back and go through this process with another request, I don't think that seems necessary given the rest of the site, and so I would want to amend my motion to remove condition number 5.
Second.
Let's give the chair just a minute to catch up here. Right. Mr. Reynolds, give us some clarity.
Yeah, I think we just want to make sure that we're approving just the cabin near McCubbins, because we don't want to accidentally kind of leave out the 2 glamping sites on the backside, which was condition number 5 would still apply to those.
But you need a waiver for the glamping sites, right?
Correct. Yeah. So
even
we have
if
the waiver
don't
for
have
the
condition
cabin.
number 5, they cannot operate without the waiver. So if we approve it without 5 and they get the waiver later, they can do glamping.
I think we'd probably want that to come back to the commission to get approved if they get the waiver.
So are you saying drop 5?
No, I say keep 5, but just make it clear that since we have a waiver provided for the cabin near McCubbins, that we're approving that cabin only.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I think what he's saying that would be good for us is to add a sentence to number 5, which is saying the cabin is excluded from number 5, but no other part of the property line is.
Aren't we already saying that in number 5?
Well, I think in the so let's just say in the staff recommendation, it's they approve the rural retreat with the indoor event facility with 3,700 or 7,300 square feet of floor area and the cabin along McCubbins with the
because of the waiver.
Because of the waiver.
No other structures are approved. Yes.
So we would just be removing the cabin from number 5, correct? The existing cabin.
I think you should include it in your motion. Approve the request for the rural retreat with an indoor events facility building and the cabin along McCummins. I would include it in there. And then keep
based on the receipt of the waiver that was presented today.
Based on the receipt of the waiver that was presented today, I would make a motion to approve, per staff's recommendation, a indoor event facility, rural retreat, subject to 5 conditions, but also approve the existing cabin that is along McCummins. Is that a clear enough motion? Okay.
Excuse me, may I ask a question?
All right, so we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, but you have a question.
Commissioner Barger just gave us a second. Okay, so is everybody clear on what we're voting on? Okay, we're not voting on the tents we're voting on the cabin because we got a waiver, voting on the indoor facility, right? Everybody good? Okay. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
We have 1 no. Commissioner Shelso is the lone dissenter.
The opposition had a question before we voted. I don't know.
Yeah, we had already gone to the commission. The way our rules
Yes,
are.
sir, I understand that. I would just like to ask a question with regarding to what you're all voting on now.
Sure.
If it could just be clear on what you're voting, because we do see on the site plan the tents. That's what we see on the site plan.
If they're within the 200 feet,
Okay,
Mr.
so
Reynolds, and if you'll.
If it could just be clear on what you're voting
Yeah,
for.
we're very clear on it. It's in the conditions. It states it very clearly.
Including
Anything within that 200 feet is not approved.
And if you notice something that is not conforming, you are to call Knox County Codes, and they will address the issue with you as a complaint.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Something about this matter's clouded everyone's minds, I think. Okay, well, moving on. Where are we? 50. All right. Okay, it's that time of year. We have the appointment of the executive committee. So Vice Chair Uten and I will join Commissioner Adams, Commissioner Shelso, and Commissioner Huber to serve on that executive committee. Okay, so is that my motion? That'll be my motion. How about a second?
Second.
All right, we got a second by Commissioner Huber. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed over there? Okay, motion carries. We are adjourned.